Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with another spoiler video. I haven't actually done spoiler videos for Shadows of Innistrad, so we're going to quickly go through the newest spoilers for today, March 16th, and then I'll talk about some that I wanted to talk about. Started to do some videos, and then I'm super busy lately, so yeah, let's get started here. So I haven't seen these spoilers, so those will be new to me. The first one is Harness the Storm. Enchantment 2 and a red. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand, you may cast target card with the same name as that whole... Whoa, I think they got the name right on this card because this will definitely go in Storm. I'm not quite sure that this is better than Pyromancer's Ascension because Pyromancer's Ascension pretty much copies any spell that you cast either from your graveyard or your hand. And then this, you may cast a card with the same name as spell from your graveyard. So it doesn't get exiled though. Yeah, that's crazy. So it doesn't give it flashback, it doesn't get exiled, it just casts it. So I would say this is pretty powerful. This is extremely powerful in Storm in Modern. I also think this is going to be decently powerful in Standard. Just think about like Kolaghan's Command, getting a duplicate Kolaghan's Command, and then you can start to go crazy with it by returning creatures. Is there any sort of return a spell type card? There could be an infinite loop with this card, I'm sure. We'll have to check and see what you can do with casting a card in your graveyard, then casting that to get a card back, to casting. Yeah, it's going to be pretty nutty. And we'll 100% see play in at least people trying to brew around it. Don't know if it will for sure make a slot in Storm, but it's the power level is definitely there. All right, Jace, Unraveler of Secrets, 5 mana Planeswalker. You have a Scry, then draw a card. That is pretty powerful for +1. He starts out at 5 loyalty, so you can get up to 6 loyalty. So on the turn that you cast him, you might be able to get him above the loyalty that you need to kind of protect himself. So if an opponent has to swing in with a 4-drop, you would even think that back in the day with like Polukranos, this would actually survive a Polukranos. So of course Polukranos isn't in the format. Seadron will be out. So I'm trying to think what mid-range card would actually be able to attack in a Jace. But usually this will probably be used when you already have the board cleared, and this will be the Planeswalker card for the control decks to then get card advantage. It actually can protect itself or return target creature to its owner's hand. So for 5 mana you can bounce something and then start to scry and draw a card. I think this is pretty much a pretty bland Planeswalker. We've seen multiple cards that do very similar things to Jace. Yeah, very boring Planeswalker, especially -8. You get an emblem whenever an opponent casts their first spell, counter it. I don't know. It will see play. It's definitely on the power level for Planeswalkers that see play in control type lists. The 5 is a little bit restrictive, but we've seen Tamiyo from last set see kind of play a similar role. I actually say that Tamiyo tapping down permanents is... We'll have to wait and see. Again, I think they just went really, really, really safe with this Jace, where it obviously won't be overpowered. I think that at 4, this type of ability would be on the verge of what we considered a little too powerful. But 5, there's just a huge void between 4 and 5 in Magic the Gathering. I think that's really the slot. 4 is very, very obtainable. And then it's easy to protect a 4. Once you're up to 5, that's tapping out a lot of mana. It's a whole other turn behind. So against the hyper-aggressive decks, turn 4, turn 5 is where you kill. And again, there is just a huge world of difference between 4 and 5. But I do think this is one of the more powerful Planeswalkers we've seen in a long time. And in the right shell, of course, a control shell, this card will see play. Okay, Sigarda, Heron's Grace. So, flying, you and humans you control have hexproof. It's a 4/5. An exile card from your graveyard. Put a 1/1 human soldier creature token on the battlefield. Not a huge fan of this. Exile any card from your graveyard. That's not bad. I think I'd like a little more out of a 5-drop. Something that it gives you hexproof and humans you control hexproof, but she herself does not have hexproof. The 4/5 does survive the Grasp of Darkness, so that's going to be relevant. It also is going to survive Ultimate Price because it's a multicolored creature. So, but compared to like Jamoka right now, do we want this over Jamoka, or what else survives? We'll have to check and see what slots in green-white we have at 5. But it's definitely a card that is neat. I mean, the hexproof is very relevant to you, and if you could give this card hexproof somehow, and if it does able to untap, you can get a lot of value out of exiling cards from your graveyard. Again, it's exile cards to put a 1/1 white human soldier, so you don't have to exile creatures. You can just start exiling like, I don't think this would go in a collected company type deck, but Dromoka's commands you can start exiling. They have no more use in your deck, and they can start getting you. And if this was around during fetch lands, I think it would be a lot better by being able to exile your used fetch lands. Kind of bland card in my opinion. Not too excited about Sigarda. Olivia, Mobilized for War. 3 mana for 3/3 flying. That's awesome. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may discard a card. If you do, you put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. It gains haste, and it becomes a vampire in addition to its other types. Well, first off, I already know where I will find a home for this card. This is going to go in my Marchesa deck for sure. Marchesa the Black Rose, as you do want +1/+1 counters, and haste is actually pretty powerful in that deck as well. So as soon as you cast a creature with Marchesa, you need to put a +1/+1 counter on it. This will do it. This will also go good in any sort of flashback and delve, threshold. It does have some power for sure. 3/3 flying for 3 is right on par with where you want it to be. And then the ability to make your 4-drop have haste and +1/+1. We'll have to look at the 4-drops and see if there's any 4-drops right now that really want haste or want a +1/+1 counter. And if it fits the bill on both of those, then this card could be a powerhouse. I definitely like it better than Drana. I think it's a better slot because you get immediate value out of it the next turn. You don't have to connect. And it's another vampire. We could definitely have Vampire Tribal, but where this card really shines is with the Madness ability, as this will be another Madness enabler. And there's already the Madness 3. There's a vampire. It's like a 5-drop. We'll look at it in a second. That has Madness 3, and this will work perfectly with that card. All right, let's scroll down a bit. Let's see what else we have here. We have a card I'm gonna have to look up. So Rise from the Tides. Rise from the Tides. Put a 2/2 black creature zombie token on the battlefield for each instant or sorcery card in your graveyard. That's nice. That's definitely a really good card. I wish it was instant speed, of course. I think it would need to be instant speed to be constructed playable, but limited playable, this is a powerhouse. You will definitely get at least a few zombies out of this, and 6 mana for a finisher to put like 3 2/2 zombies in play, or possibly even 4. I think that's very, very powerful for your late game finisher. Not too excited. If it had instant speed, then I'd be a lot more excited about this card again for constructed. Alright, so we'll go on to Epiphany of the Drownyard. Reveal the top X+1 cards of your library and separate them into 2 piles. An opponent chooses one of those piles. Put that pile in your hand and the other in the graveyard. You can actually cantrip this. Wow. Okay, this is a pretty good card because just for blue, you can cantrip and they have to give you a card. You don't have to reveal it though. But for 2 mana, you get a card in your hand and a card in your graveyard. For 3 mana, you get at least a card and 2 cards in your graveyard. This is a decent little card, instant speed. I like it. I like it a lot. A very good Madness enabler, a very good Delve enabler. A lot of the Delve cards are going away though. And Threshold again in past sets. I think that there is a lot of interesting things you can do with this. I love this set because it's going to bring... Graveyard, of course, is my favorite zone in the entire zone in Magic. I love messing with my graveyard. I love using Madness, Threshold, Flashback, Unearth, especially Unearth. Unearth is an ability that I've tried to get going in Modern for quite a while, and I think Epiphany of the Drownyard fits perfectly for enabling graveyard type strategies. Breakneck Rider, 3 mana. At the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast, you transform it. And attacking creatures, you can draw +1/+0 on trample. And of course, if there's no spells, or if there's 2 spells cast, you retransform it. A 3/3 for 3 is right where you want it to be. The double red's a bit hard in like the Atarka. I think Atarka red's where this card wants to see play. We do lose Hordling Outburst. We still do have Dragon Fodder though. I'm sure we'll get some more token enablers or ways to put out. We lose Secure the... No, we still have Secure the Ways. That card was out of Dragons. So it's going to go great in those type of strategies. You do need to find a way to transform this. So far, we haven't seen any hard ways to... out of Innistrad, the original one, there was a way just to flip your werewolves. And so far, we haven't seen anything like that. But I think it's more powerful if we can guarantee that we can flip it. Because +1/+0 on trample is huge. I really like this card in Limited. Of course, it's a powerhouse in Limited. Let's go over to the Groundskeeper. 1 in a green, return target basic land card from your graveyard in hand. Too bad it's basic. I think you could actually have this see a little more play in Modern if it could return any land, but Basic is really going to hamper this from doing, like, returning Tectonic Edges and Ghost Quarters. That's exactly where you'd want to, or even fetch lands to return. But it's not bad for the having a lot of ways to discard from your hand through Madness Enablers. Sometimes you don't have a Madness card in your hand, you have to discard a land, which is going to be very, very, very relevant. It's going to happen a ton in this format. Groundskeeper will give you card advantage by being able to return the land back to your hand, and then be able to discard that later on. I think this is a solid card. Not quite sure if it will see standard playable. I think it would need to have a little more upside than just a 1/1 for 1. But this does have a ton of value. Any deck that wants to be discarding lands or sacrificing basic lands, I know there's a few things that actually do sacrifice basic lands. Awaken is still in the format, so if one of your guys dies, it's a way to get back a land that was awakened. And there's got to be some combos with this in Modern and Commander that is just escaping me at this point. Still a solid card. All these cards so far have been very solid. None of them have been just really weak or boring. Jace is so far the card that I'm least excited about, but it's definitely on the power level. All right, so let's go on to yesterday. This had some cool cards. I have seen these ones from yesterday. Glanced over them. This Arlinn Kord, 4 mana for a 3 loyalty planeswalker. Until end of turn, up to 1 target creature gets +2/+2 in vigilance and haste. That's nice. It can give you 3-drop, which we've already seen some decent 3-drops. A bit of a boost. So you're going to get immediate value out of that. Or you can put a 2/2 green wolf token to protect her. And then it flips. Or is that a him? I can't even tell with this card. Whatever. Gender neutral card. Then it flips over. Keep in mind, it has already been used. You can't activate a planeswalker you've already activated. It's still considered a planeswalker that has been activated. So you get a 2/2, and then next turn, it flips over to Arlinn Embraced by the Moon. Creatures you control at +1/+1 and gain trample until end of turn. And then Arlinn Embrace for a -1 deals 3 damage to our creature or player, and then it transforms back. So there's some crazy things you can do with this card. Its emblem is you get an emblem with -6, creatures you control have haste, and tap, this creature deals damage equal to its power target your player. I think that's the goal, is to get this card up to the emblem. And at the +2/+2 vigilance and haste is perfect though, because you can still attack and protect Arlinn with your 3-drop. We lose Rattleclaw, which is probably the better 3-drop out of the format. We still have Den Protector and Deathmist Raptor. I really think Deathmist Raptor is the perfect card for this. There's also the 3-drop 3/3 for 3 out of red and green, uncommon, that then you can pump up later. Is it pump up based on its power? I can't remember exactly what to pump it up. It gets, I think it actually only gets +1/+1 in trample. But that uncommon is pretty decent, and I'm sure we'll see some other decent cards to throw out on turn 3 or turn 2 to protect Arlinn. But I think this Planeswalker is actually, this is a great design. So even if it doesn't see massive play in Standard, I really like the design of this flip Planeswalker. Odric, Lunarch, Marshal. At the beginning of each combat, creature you control gain first strike. The same is true for flying, death touch, double strike, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, skulk, trample, and vigilance. Yeah, so you have to control a card, and then all of your cards get that. So too bad Chromanticore is not still in the format. But being able to give all your creatures death touch and first strike, you're going to be able to give them first strike. So if you have a death toucher, this card actually does get a ton of value. I like this card a lot. Yeah, this has some pretty sweet. Looks like Skulk is going to be either an evergreen mechanic, or they're just going to have a lot of Skulk creatures in this format. Macabre Waltz. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Probably not. Return up to 2 creature cards from your graveyard to your hand, then discard a card. This card is a reprint. I have been trying to break this in Pauper and Modern for the longest time. Now I have it in Standard. It's really on power. Especially with Madness, because you could return 2 creature cards from your graveyard to your hand, ones you've discarded in the past, and then discard a card to enable Madness. So either creatures that have died, creatures you've got value out of by sacrificing, and so it's basically 3 for 1 if you have a Madness card, because you can use 1 card to get 2 cards back and enable Madness. It is sorcery speed though, so it's one thing that's kind of pushing it behind, but it's definitely a nice little card in Limited. And I think that this will be on power level for a constructed deck. To the slaughter. Target player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, and if they have Delirium, they have to sacrifice a creature and a planeswalker for 3 mana, and it's instant speed. Definitely going to see play. It gets around hexproof. I don't like that it gives them options, but Delirium, if they have a planeswalker and a creature, it doesn't give them options. They have to sack both. And here's the card I'm the most excited about with is Rattlechain. Rattlechains is another 2 flash 2/1 flying flash creature, which we also has a dimensional something out of Oath of the Gatewatch. That's a 2/1 flash flying. And then when it enters the battlefield, target spirit gains hexproof. It can give itself hexproof. And you may cast other spirits as though they had flash. So a spirit tribalist can be really good, but it's just going to be the flash that I'm pretty excited about with this card because that gives us a ton of blue and green flash cards. And I think that the blue-green flash temple is now going to be able to be an archetype in standard because we have just between the 4 cards that I can think of, there's the Bounding Krasis, there's the 2/4 that gives a hexproof out of Oath, and then the 2/2/1 flyers. So we have 4 that are 3 and under, and all of them are pretty good, like either 2/1 flying bodies or 2/4 body with flash, ground, and a 3/3 that untaps a creature. So I think that they're all really, really good. They all have nice value, and we're going to be able to make that deck. I'll try to do one for playing on a budget right off the bat because I think it will be a budget deck for sure. I also have the Lumbering Falls, which is a manland in exactly what Tempo wants a manland. Blue-green Tempo wants something can activate attacking and hold up counterspell magic after that. Or what you do is you hold up counter and draw in your hand, and then if they don't play anything that you need to counter or draw, that's when you flash in with your creatures. Absolutely, I'm a huge fan of Tempo, of flash Tempo type strategies. We'll go back to March 14th. We have the Sage of Ancient Lore. Power and toughness equal to the number of cards in your hand. And when Sage of Ancient Lore enters battlefield, draw a card, so you can at least get value out of it. And then during your upkeep, if no spells were cast, flip it, and then its power and toughness are equal to all cards in all hands. So it's going to be good in Commander, other than this thing's going to flip like crazy, or it's going to have a hard time flipping, staying unflipped in Commander. But then it's Vigilance Trample. It's alright. It's good in Limited for sure. Falconwrath Gorger, each vampire creature each creature you own that isn't on the battlefield has Madness. The Madness cost is equal to its mana cost. So this is my favorite card so far printed in the entire set, so far spoiled. I can think of a ton of 1-drop vampires, and especially 2-drop vampires, that you can get Madness with. Blood Artist is really, really neat with this card too, because it's a vampire. And then you can run this card in like a discard deck where you want to fill up your graveyard, so Aristocrats type style deck. And then you can safely discard your Blood Artist and then still get it on the battlefield. Or if you just have to discard it, it's just in the graveyard, and then you can recur it. So there are a lot of 1-drops from the old Zendikar block out of vampires that are very aggressive that makes this card with Faithless Looting and Dark Deal or Burning Inquiry really, really, really good. So I could actually see this in a Waste Not type deck around vampires just to get some value out of vampires. And then so when you cast like the Dark Deal and you add a ton of mana to your mana pool off of the Waste Not, then by your opponent discarding lands, hopefully, I mean that's the thing, you can cast all of those black vampires with the mana that you get off of, the madness off of it, and then you can get a lot of, you're still discarding them, so you'll still get 2/2s. But even, like I said, with Faithless Looting, this card's pretty good. So first turn, drop a Falconwrath Gorger, a second turn, Faithless Looting, and you can at least discard like another either black or red vampire and madness it in, and that can get behind one of the discard off of the Faithless Looting. There's also the Call of the Nethervoid, which was a Madness 0. You can return a black creature back from your hand. It will work with this kind of deck. I don't know, I really like Madness mechanics. One of my favorite mechanics ever printed. And this card is going to see play. I don't know. I'm going to just have an overload of cards that I want to try to brew with, because every card spoiled so far is incredibly interesting. I know I get very excited when every set spoils. You name it. That's just me. I think that every card has potential, and it goes long. We'll go back to my nerd obsession with personality theory. One of I'm an ENFP. If it's Coin the Champion, and one of the characteristic of ENFP is trying to find potential, usually in others, but you can kind of transcend that to cards, because cards end up kind of being like little people to me. I try to find their potential, try to make them as best they can be, and that's how I make most of my rogue decks is looking at a card and saying, how can I make this card good? And then looking at the whole modern format or legacy format or standard format, finding every card possible that can synergize and putting it into a deck. So these new spoil sets, especially synergy type decks, are just like catnip to me. So I'm going to love this Falconwrath Gorger. Wolf of Devil's Breach, 5 mana for a 5/5. Whenever Wolf of Devil's Breach attacks, you may pay 2 to discard a card. If you do, Wolf of Devil's Breach deals damage to target creature or planeswalker equal to discard a card's converted mana cost. It's pretty good. Not bad at all. It's very weak as a mythic. I'm going to say that because it's going to have to 5 for 5/5 when you could be getting out, I'm sure. Well, I mean, what else is at that slot? That's Dragonlord Kolaghan at this point that gets immediate value. And this guy has to then attack, and he doesn't have any evasion or anything above that, or trample. And then you have to discard a card for 2 mana, and then it can only deal damage to a creature or planeswalker. Unfortunately, I think this is going to be the bulk mythic. It's cool, and now that I went through this entire spiel of how I like to find potential of cards, and I'm already writing this card off, I just don't think at a 5-drop that this is sees enough or does enough. This is Goblin Dark Dwellers too. That's huge, especially in a format where you're going to be using a lot of instant sorceries and discarding a lot of cards. I think the Goblin Dark Dwellers is just going to outshine this card, and it's going to be hard for it to see play. Neglected Heirloom. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, and when it equipped creature transforms, transform it. And equipped creature gets +3/+3 in its first strike, so it stays equipped to the transformed card, I believe, right? Yeah, that's how it should read. And it just makes any transform card a lot more powerful. I really like this card. Limited Bomb. I don't know if it'll quite able to see play in Constructed, but it's great. Nahiri, the Harbinger. 4 mana for a 4/4, or for 4 loyalty. Discard a card, you may draw a card. Huge ability in the Madness set. Exile target enchantment, tapped artifact, or tapped creature for -2. And, why does it have to be tapped? That is rough. I like the destroy an enchantment because that's one of the problems that Skred has, or the Boros Planeswalkers. This will definitely be a sideboard card in my Boros Planeswalker deck because it does exactly... It might actually just replace Chandra. Other than, I like to build the Boros Walkers with Chandra's Phoenix because you have both a Johnny and Chandra that can get back the Chandra's Phoenix. The problem I have with this card is, of course, the tapped. It's +2 though, so you have to activate this twice and then get the emblem. And the emblem is huge. Search your library for Emrakul and put it on the battlefield. It gains haste. I think I like that. I don't think I'll probably do Emrakul, but Ulamog could definitely go in the Boros Walkers deck because 10 is something that's feasible to cast with like Koth being able to generate a ton of mana. Or just with Nahiri. But where I really like this is like Wormcoil Engine or Goblin Dark Dwellers. Other than -8, you want to finish the game with that. And that really... people just need to not think of Nahiri. Don't get too greedy with Nahiri. I understand doubling season into Emrakul. Like, people have been talking about that already. Because doubling season doubles the counters. It enters battlefield 4 loyalty counters. It gets doubled to 8. And then you can immediately search for Emrakul. So it's like you'd have to doubling season on. You'd have to ramp into doubling season and then cast Nahiri the next turn. So I'm really thinking that if you want to go into like a tooth and nail type strategy with Nahiri, I would play Oath of Nissa so that you can spend any mana and kind of tutor up what you need. And then you'd be able to cast the doubling season. So you'd want a lot of like ramp. And so Nightthose Shrine of Nyx would be your alternate way of getting it out. And then, yeah, Nahiri doubling season, it's worth a shot anyway in Modern. Not quite sure but doubling season gets pretty crazy with all the other cards, all the other Planeswalkers you'd want to use in a doubling season Planeswalker deck. And I'm not even quite sure you'd need like Tooth. It's cool. I don't know. I still think that you'd want the Tooth of Nail type shell though with the lands that can produce more than one. So you'd want to throw on either an Overgrowth or a Utopia Sprawl. It's definitely a card that has a lot of synergies. And I don't even think you need Emrakul necessarily. There's a lot of cards that can just finish the game or get a lot of value. In Standard, this can still search for Dragonlord Jamoka. Because you put it onto the battlefield, you don't cast it. So Emrakul doesn't gain take an extra turn, or any of the Eldrazi's don't gain all of their cast abilities. So I think Dragonlord Jamoka is the best one. It's for like a Naya type shell. But I'm just thinking that this card wants to go in Scred, and don't just ignore that ability and just try to use the -2 as control, and the +2 to really set your hand up. Really works with Lingering Souls too. So I don't know if Mardu wants this deck or wants this card in Mardu control in Modern, but it's really cool. I just think that people need to think about, like, just even Wormcoil Engine gaining haste. But you have to bounce it back to your hand, or even Thragtusk. Grab Thragtusk, it bounce back, so you do the 3/3 back. In the format, though, there's still Linvala. Linvala's pretty good with that -8. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see, though. But it's only 2 activations with it, then it's good to go. All right, enough time on Nahiri. We'll go on to Anguish Unmaking, which is the Vindicate remake, which I actually think is more powerful than Vindicate, because you exile target non-land permanent. Oh, it's non-land, so you can't destroy land, and then you lose 3 life. So versatile. Who cares about 3 life? This is like Dismember. But, I mean, of course, Dismember is usually 1 casting cost card. But instant speed is huge. I love this card. And look, it works in a Mardu deck with Nahiri. So, Anguish Unmaking, this is perfect for the black-white control deck that I run right now with, like, Silk Wraps and Gideons. And there's a lot of ways to gain life in that deck. I actually use the land that gains life equal to how many creatures you control, the Congregate land, because I use the Blight Herder. And again, this is going to work good with Blight Herder. It exiles, so you got to think of all the cards that want cards in your opponent's exile zone. Anguish Unmaking is very good with black-white Eldrazi. Jeez, this set's incredibly powerful. All right, Descend Upon the Sinful, 6 mana, exile all creatures, and then if you have each type of card in your graveyard, or 4 or more cards in your graveyard with different types, you get a 4/4 Angel. So it's a board wipe. I hate this at Mythic, though. It does have exile. It's not terrible. But the problem is it doesn't even enable your Delirium. Angel of Deliverance, 8 mana for 6/6. Whenever an Angel of Deliverance deals damage to their 4 or more cards, exile target creature opponent controls. This is a pretty good reanimation target. If we have any good reanimation spells, or here again, Nahiri. Nahiri with Angel of Deliverance, that's a good one to give haste to. And you'll have a Planeswalker in the graveyard. And yeah, it's not bad. I don't know if this is playable. It seems really bulky to me. Sinful Concoction, 1 mana, pay 1 life, put the top card of your library into your graveyard, discard a card, sacrifice Sinister Concoction, and destroy target creature. It's not bad. Enables madness, destroys a creature, puts a card in the top of your library graveyard, puts an enchantment in the graveyard for Delirium. I think this card does everything that the limited format wants it to do. Really good in limited. Definitely could see play in Standard. Going back into other formats that enchantments matter, this is a great card for that. We still do have kind of enchantments matter deck because we still have the Sigil. So keep that in mind. Nephalia Moondrakes, 7 mana for a 5/5. When it enters the battlefield, target creature gains flying, and then exile it, and from your graveyard, creatures gain flying. Pretty bulky, great limited card. Don't need to really talk much about this. Startled Awake I talked about in my finance video. This card I think is, 4 mana is rough for a mill card, but it does do 13 cards, which is huge, and so it can go in type of a mill type strategy. I think for Standard you'd need to find a few more mill cards for the Startled Awake to work. We do have the Sphinx's Tutelage, so there's that. Drog Skull Cavalry, the last one, 7 mana for a 4/4. Whenever another spirit in this battlefield, you enter your control, gain 2 life. So gain 4 life off of Lingering Souls, gain 6 life off the Spectral Procession. That's pretty good. And put a 1/1 white spirit creature token on flying. This would not go in Soul Sisters before we even talk about it. 7 mana is very rough. If you have 7 mana, that's Elish Norn. So this is not going to see play in Modern. I highly doubt that it sees play in Standard. You'd have to have a good reanimation type strategy. And is this worth reanimating over like a Dragonlord Jamoka? I would say no. But we'll have yet to see. It's going to be great and limited. This is going to be an absolute limited bomb. So I'm not going to go over to past into March 11th. I think that this stuff has already been, people have seen enough of this. If go back, other people's spoiler videos will definitely cover that. We've already gone a half an hour on this deck. Give my impressions of all the cards. So far, this is looking to be one of the best sets ever printed. You can quote me on that. I'm absolutely loving all the cards spoiled. This is coming from me not really liking Oath or Battle for Zendikar. They've both those sets were okay. They were better than Khans. Khans is one of my most hated sets of all time just because all the cards were so boring. And it just had a bunch of value-based cards like Siege Rhino. But this one seems like all these cards need work. You have to like find cards to synergize with them, which is exactly why I play Magic, and is exactly what I look for in a set. So I hope you enjoyed this spoiler video, and we'll be looking forward. I'll try to keep on top of the ones that are coming out after in these next few days. We're up to 85, I believe, or 88, and so there's still a lot of the filler cards left. Fun limited set looking to come to fruition here with this set. Anyway, this has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.